Hi, my name's Jennifer Hathaway, and I'm joining you to share a very brief overview of the new New York State Science Learning Standards, the assessments, and also the new investigations that accompany those assessments. I know there have been a lot of changes over the last few years, and with this year being the first year that those new tests from New York State will be given, there are a lot of questions, and teachers might need a little bit more support this year. So if you aren't familiar with these standards, this should be a very quick, less than 10-minute overview for you so that you have kind of the basics that you would need to support your staff moving forward. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about my background or why I'm recording this video, but my resume is linked right here. So if you click my name, you'll have an overview of my work experience, and why I'm creating this video will make more sense. And then my email is here as well, so that if you have questions specific to your building, feel free to reach out to me, or you can pass this along to your staff and they can reach out to me at any time. So I'm going to share with you lots of different links here, and I'm not going to go over all of them in detail, but this is a published website that I'm sharing with you. So as I make updates or changes, I usually add them to this, and anytime you click this link, you'll have the most recent version of it. So the first is the New York State Science Standards. I'm not going to click on that because it's a PDF, but it is an 80-page document of all of the New York State Science Standards pre-K through 12. So if that's not something that you're familiar with or you haven't looked at it, I would definitely recommend opening that up and just kind of getting an overview or a feel for what those standards look like at every grade level and how they scaffold content from K through 12. And then the second link here, I'm going to open that for you. This is a page that I created. When I first started looking at these standards, they're so very different from the old standards that it's a bit overwhelming, and there's a lot of different abbreviations on this page. So I created this document for the teachers that I was working with, and it just has these little pop-out boxes that kind of explain what each of these things are. So as an administrator, there's a couple things I want to point out. First is the organization of these blue, orange, and green boxes. I'm going to talk about that a little later in this video, but that is something that when doing observations or when helping teachers transition to new teaching styles to help prepare students for the new assessments, that's something that you definitely want to pay attention to and make sure teachers are hitting each of those three areas in their unit plans. The other point that I want to make down here is that a lot of people miss this bottom half of the standards. The top half is really the part that you'd focus on most for unit or lesson planning, but down at the bottom, this is actually really useful. It's very fine print and it's easy to kind of, just move past, but right here under the colored section, these are similar content standards at different grade levels. So if in your building you have a lot of grade levels that work together through big buddy programs, or if teachers like to collaborate to reduce prep for hands-on activities, this is a great place to look because this is a fourth grade standard page, but you can see there are links to middle school standards, second grade, third grade. So these are all standards that would have similar science content at different grade levels. So for planning, that's a great place to start. And then on the bottom here, I know that time is one of the main concerns of teachers when trying to fit in all of these new standards, especially at the elementary level. And so a lot of times they're trying to find ways to link ELA and math standards with these new science standards so that they can fit in more science into their schedule. So down here, it shows you the ELA and math standards that are linked to these science standards. So that could be really helpful when trying to plan as well. So back to our original screen, the next link here is the New York State Education Department Science page. And I've linked it to the science updates. The last one posted here is fall 2021, but on the left side here on the menu, you can see there are lots of other science resources. I'm sure you've all seen this, but I like to point it out just because in the last couple of years, it's become much more organized and the state's been posting a lot of updates regarding science. So if your staff has a specific question or if you're trying to find something specific, let me know and I can send you a direct link. I'm pretty familiar with this page. Next is the new test timeline. So I'm sure you've all seen this now, but I just want to highlight a couple things on here. So this spring 2024 is the first administration of the elementary grade 5 and intermediate science grade 8 science tests. So, throughout this school year, teachers might need a little bit more support or professional development focused on preparing students for the new test style. There's quite a difference in the change in the way that questions are asked. And so there are some, tips and tricks that I have to kind of help prepare students for that new test format. And I'll talk more about where you can point your teachers for help with that. All right, and then the next thing I want to point out is that in June of 2025 and June of 2026, there will be new Regents exams for biology, earth science, physics, and chemistry. Now, a lot of the high school teachers I've worked with in the last few years haven't been quite ready to completely move to these new standards that were released in 2018. Because if the Regents exam hasn't changed, it's really difficult to adjust curriculum because students still need to be prepared for those Regents exams. But this year, this will be the last year for biology and earth science in the spring of 2024 before we need to adjust to that new curriculum. So you may have some high school teachers reach out and really want some more support with these new standards. So if that's the case, feel free again to reach out to me and I can definitely help you with that piece. So my video skills aren't awesome here. I need to take a video. I don't know, some class on video editing and all of that to help me out with these presentations. So thank you for bearing with me there. All right, the next thing is my most requested document from teachers. So this is something that you definitely want to pass along to your elementary staff. So a lot of times when elementary teachers are working with these new standards, they have kits that are already designed for them, but they want to try to create a scope and sequence and figure out when they're going to teach each of these new units and when they're going to fit in the investigations, how would you plan field trips, all of those things. And so this is that 80-page document, the elementary section. A teacher from Lake Placid, John Fermonte, did this for me. And he created an outline where we took all of those main units at each grade level and put them on one page. So this is great for the elementary teachers if they're doing grade level planning. This is just a really quick chart or document to help them move more quickly. Next up is 3D learning. So this page, I would highly recommend that as an administrator, you read through this page. It's very short, so there's only a small amount of information on this page, but when you're looking at lesson design and unit design, this is really the starting point for these new standards. And so our New York State science standards were based off of the national NGSS standards. And this three-dimensional learning is kind of the center of lesson design for those new standards. And I could go on for days about 3D learning and how to design lessons with this in mind, but for you, just as a basic summary, reading through this page and getting an understanding of what those shifts are in instructional practices will be really helpful. And then there are other links here that might be helpful for you to look through. And again, I do have a lot of PD focused on three-dimensional learning, so if you have questions or would like more information on that, please let me know. Next, I have to share with you this slideshow, and this is specific to assessment updates. So I've gotten a lot of questions in the last year from teachers, and what I did was take all of my frequently asked questions and most requested links, and I put them in the slideshow so that teachers have access to this. There is a video that I kind of do a walkthrough through this slideshow, so you could watch that if you wanted, but it's here if you need it. And then the one thing I want to point out to all of you is that a lot of teachers are very stressed about the new test being computer-based. That's new for the 5th and 8th grade science. And this link, when you click it, takes you to practice exams in science. And it shows teachers and students the tools they'll have available during these new tests in the spring of 2024. So this is a great tool for teachers to use before the test to kind of help ease anxiety and help students be prepared and understand what to expect during those new exams. And then the last thing that I have to share with you is this free assessment workshop. So this is something that I created for teachers, and it's about 55 minutes, and it goes through all different information about the past assessments and how they are different Then the new assessments, I have lots of links here for teachers. There's a whole portion on the investigations. And then if teachers are wanting to look more at designing their own units, especially at the middle and high school level, or if you're looking into some school-wide initiatives to help boost scores on those science exams, this is a great starting point for some of that. So the last thing I have to share with you before I end the video, I do have a website as well. And if you hit this Connect Online button, it will take you to my website where I constantly post updates as I get them. And then there's more information here for teachers as well. So thank you for joining me, and please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.